Hi, I'm David. Welcome back to Collective Kitchens. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make some super easy, no-knead white bread. I know for a lot of people, bread is something that's kind of intimidating, you know. A lot of baking tends to be kind of scary, but this is really, really easy. And in just about 3 hours, almost no work, you'll have a lovely loaf of bread. So, start off here, I've got some flour, just regular all-purpose white flour. And I'm going to get 3 3/4 cups. And so when you're measuring flour with a cup like this, what you want to do is kind of fill it like that and shake it a little bit so the flour settles and you're not going to get uneven measurements. And then you can take a knife, take the back of it, so you get a nice measured cup. So you're going to do 3 3/4 of those, so give it a shake, take your knife, level it off. That's 2. Same thing. And this is just so we have a consistent amount of flour. So that's 3 cups. You got your last little bit here. Check that in there. Pop this flour to the side. Then in with the flour, we're going to add a little bit of salt so our bread tastes good. It's important. So you're going to use half a tablespoon. So I've got my measure here, so it doesn't need to be exact. About half a tablespoon of flour in there. Then I'm going to grab myself a whisk here before I forget. Third ingredient is yeast. Just take your packet of yeast, or the equivalent of 7 or 8 grams. And since this is instant yeast, we can put it right in the flour, just like that. Chuck in the flour, and that's it. That's all my dry ingredients. So I'll take my whisk here and just mix it up so everything's combined nice and evenly. Don't get any big chunks of salt or anything like that. Should be fine. And then we're going to take 1.5 cups of water. This is a little bit warmer than room temperature. You know, like a lukewarm. And we're just going to pour it all straight in. All around there. I'm going to take my fork, and we're just going to mix it up here. So what you're going for, just mix in circles like this. Let the water get in there. Takes a little bit for the dry ingredients to come together, but as you can see, it's starting to a little bit. Smells good too. Warm dough. So, this is actually looking a little bit dry. So I'm going to take just a little bit more water here. About 1/4 cup. And just pour it on there. So when you're measuring your flour with cups, it's never going to be exactly the same. So sometimes you gotta, you know, do things kind of by feel. And that's okay if you've never made bread before, because it's super easy. So you've got this here, nice little thing. Now, I know I said no knead, and it is, but I just want to make sure that it's kind of all come together. Not too many dry bits. So just mix it up a little bit. You can use your hands. You can use whatever works. You don't really have any dry bits here, so you can see most of the flour is all nice and worked in there. And now we're going to just cover that with plastic wrap, and we're going to let that sit out at room temperature for about an hour, and then we're going to stick it in the fridge. And so when you stick it in the fridge, you can leave it for, you want to leave it for about at least 2 hours minimum, but you can leave it for up to a week if you keep it covered and it doesn't get dried out. So this is a really great thing to make ahead. This should make you about 2 loaves of bread, which is nice. So you just cover it up with your plastic wrap and leave it be. And then when you're ready to bake, all you'll do is grab a bit and shape it into a loaf stick it in the oven, and you'll have fresh bread. So we'll be back shortly once this is risen, 1 hour out of the fridge, and then 2 hours to a week in the fridge. And we'll show you how to make your loaves and bake some bread. Hi, I'm David. Welcome back to Collective Kitchens, where we're baking our own no-knead bread. So just before I showed you how to make this dough, super easy. This has been sitting in the fridge overnight, but you can go anywhere from a couple hours to up to 7 days with this dough. So take off the plastic wrap here, come have a look. This one was a little dry, so in the recipe notes, we're actually going to change what I said instead of 3 3/4 cup of flour. So just have a look at the recipe and follow that. But it's looking pretty good, you know. It's not too dry. It's a nice dough here. So we're going to do, take a little bit of flour, just a little bit, no more than about a tablespoon in your hands. And you hold it like this, and then you just kind of shake your hand back and forth. Flour your work surface. There you go. Rest back in your bag. Now this is enough for 2 loaves of bread. So I'm going to basically just tear it down the middle here. Got half our dough. It's pretty cold because it's been in the fridge. We're just going to fold this together a little bit, give it some shape. Like that. Take a little of this flour, put it on top so it's not going to be sticky. So we cover the rest up. That can go straight back in the fridge. And then you just take a little bit more plastic wrap. Just tuck it under here. Then we're going to let this sit for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how cold your fridge is and, you know, how wet your dough is. So yeah, we'll let this sit for about an hour, hour and a half, and we'll come back and then we'll be ready to bake. So in about an hour, preheat your oven to 450 degrees. I just put mine on here. So you set it on bake, up there, 450. And once that's done and we've let our dough rest, we'll be ready to bake bread. Hi, and welcome back to Collective Kitchens. So we've got our bread. The dough is out of the fridge. We've let it sit out here for about an hour and a half. You want to have a look at it here. It's, you know, nice and all hydrated, everything like that. It's rested a little bit. So we're going to take whatever we're baking on. You can use a baking tray. I'm using a cast iron pan here. And now you can use either cornmeal or I've got semolina. You can use flour, just something. Sprinkle it on the bottom of your parchment paper that you put on the bottom of your pan there. And then just take your dough, just use your fingers, plop it in there. And you're going to take that over to the oven that you've had preheated, 450 degrees. Then, just take a pan here. You're going to stick the bread in the middle rack, nice and far back. And I'm going to take some water that I've boiled already. I've got about a cup of water here. And we'll pour it onto the tray. Now that's going to make some steam, and that's going to help the bread rise. So, got that there. Let's set a timer for 30 minutes. And then we will come back and see how the bread is doing. Normally something like this takes between 30 to 35 minutes, so we'll go check on the bread in about half an hour. We'll see you back then. Okay, so we've had our bread in here for about 40 minutes or so. I'm just going to take it out and have a look. I was looking at it through the oven door so you can see to make sure it's not too brown, but look at that. That's a beautiful crust on there. So to check that it's ready, we're going to get a towel and hold the bread on the side here. And you're going to tap the bottom Can you hear that? It sounds hollow. So that means your bread is ready. So then what you want to do is put it somewhere for it to cool off. I know it smells really good and you want to eat the bread right now, but you should let it cool. Let the crust develop better. And it will just be worth it overall. So we're just going to pick it up. Hot bun here. Pop it down there. Let it cool. You want to let it cool for about an hour. And then tuck in. So we will be back after it's cooled and we'll show you what the bread looks like inside. Okay, so we're back here. Let the bread cool only for like 10 or 15 minutes because honestly, I just want to try this loaf. So we're just going to cut into it. See how it looks. Really nice crust there. And look at that, you got bread. You'll see a little bit of steam. It is a little bit warm. But yeah, got a nice crusty bread. Throw a little butter on there. Have that with whatever you want to have. Very tasty, super easy. And hopefully, just inspire you to try some new things in the kitchen. So best of luck, and until next time, bye.